Hello, this is Dean Takahashi at GamesBeat, and I am recording a narrated review of The Last Tiger, the latest war story in Battlefield 5 from DICE and Electronic Arts. It's debuted, it's live, and in the Tides of War update for Battlefield 5. And I've recorded about 15-20 minutes worth of video here, and cut it up a bit to show you the variety of the war story. It's more than an hour in length, full told, and it's one of 4 single-player stories known as war stories in Battlefield 5, and it is a very sobering story of World War II, told from the German point of view. So right there you know that we have something different. The narrator of the story is Peter Mueller, the commander of a Tiger tank. And he starts the story by telling his story about his father. And it is his testament to the fact that he was here, he was there in the fighting, and then he was a witness to it, and also complicit, a participant in the crimes that we saw in World War II, Nazi war crimes. The Last Tiger is an appropriate name. There were only 1,300 or so of these giant tanks, these war machines built in World War II. And they went up against Sherman tanks on the American side, and they could shred those tanks with a single shot from an 88mm cannon. So the Tiger tanks were the beasts of the battlefield. But yet, they didn't win the war for the Germans at all. They just weren't enough. The Allies had tanks by the millions. And here in the opening scene, we meet the crew of the Last Tiger, tank number 237. Mueller is the grizzled commander. Kurtz is the grizzled veteran driver. The gunner is Schroeder, who is referred to as like following around the commander like a dog. He's very toe the party line kind of character, Schroeder. And the final character is Hartman, who's a brand new recruit. A green soldier who doesn't know what he's doing. He drops a shell that could blow up the whole tank. Anyway, Kurtz does his duty. He drives them around, make sure they stay out of trouble. And here you can see a cutscene of the tank in action. It's crossing the Rhine. It's going back across the river from which the Germans have kind of retreated, going back into a city. They don't really say which city it is. You can see a cathedral there on one side. It is a bombed out city. Here you can see some German deserters walking by. And Eric Holmes, the designer of the single-player story here, he told me in an interview that the touchstone here was Das Boot, the outstanding film about a German submarine late in the war. This also occurs in the spring of 1945 when the Germans are losing the war. And Das Boot is about a submarine crew that loses its faith as the Allies move towards their inevitable victory. And again, we see what defeat looks like from the German point of view. this army that had known nothing but victory, and which Hitler had taught to think it was invincible, especially with armor like the Tiger tank. This is the beginning of the story. You're rumbling through the city in the tank, finding paths you can go on. This is, pretty obvious that it's teaching you how to go around the flanks of enemy positions if you need to. You can see the power of the cannon, the 88mm cannon here. Causing mass destruction and shooting soldiers who are running away from them. And this shot that I took here reminds you that you have to be aware of the bazookas that are in the building, hiding in the buildings. The soldiers with those can take you out if you don't pay attention to them. And the shots from the Tiger can take out an entire building just like that, as you saw. And so it's almost like a suicidal attack by the bazookas against the Tiger, especially if they're not shooting it from behind, where the armor is a bit thinner. But the bazookas just do a little bit of damage. In the game, you can stop and repair just by pressing up on the D-pad, and then you're back in action at full strength. That's a bit unrealistic, but hey, it is a video game. Here, I'm taking some hits from something far off in the distance. I can't even see. I think it's another tank. We'll veer off to the left and move into the flank. You can see the power of this tanks by just driving right over a car, and then you again have to take out another building just to get a single soldier. And now we move into some hotter action here, as we're in a different scene now where everybody seems to be shooting at the lone Tiger tank. And your job in this part of the mission is to take out some enemy artillery. We took out one of the guns just now, but again, there's all kinds of tanks and bazookas and other enemies shooting at us. And yes, I have to pay attention to this tank here because he was right in front of me. And I remembered, yes, I can drive around in this thing. I can actually get a better position on some of these enemies and take them out. So I took out the artillery in this square, and this Tiger needs some repairs. But in the meantime, this story is an example of DICE trying to tell a real human perspective on the war. These little armored cars are kind of a joke. They have no chance except maybe knocking loose a tread on my tank. But a lot of bravery. These enemy soldiers are trying to overcome insurmountable odds with superior numbers. And this rocket launcher is pretty dangerous. It's screaming Mimi. It is able to send a lot of rockets all at the same time. But you repair the tank, it's good as new. Oh, there's another suicidal attack from an armored car. And, there's a lot of that going on in this game. And it makes you feel that the tank is invincible. Clearly it is not. But I think its power is, it's indisputable, but a power has a way of having the tables turned on it, and we'll find that out a bit later. But yeah, Eric Holmes said that DICE had to walk a tightrope here in this story because it didn't want to generate sympathy for the Nazi cause or for apologize for things that they had done. It wanted to show what the German perspective was, and that included a lot of the horrors and atrocities that the Germans committed in the war. And you can see that early on just by the fact that they passed by a bunch of those deserters hanging. Here we've got another pretty heavy tank duel going on with one tank against many again, and a bunch of annoying infantry soldiers who have to be dispatched one by one. Apparently we've got no machine gunner in this tank, so hey. Anyway, it's kind of like a big target practice session here. Every now and then I gotta watch out for these hiding rocket launchers that are really also quite annoying. Here I shot at the armored car instead of the rocket launcher, so hey, the armored cars actually serve some kind of purpose every now and then. But here's that reminder that the hunter can become the hunted quite easily. Here Allied planes have found the Tiger and they're trying to take it out, and Mueller is directing Kurtz to go hide and find something. Here you see Mueller instructing the kid in the tank, Hartmann, to go outside and do something, and that's not an easy thing for the kid to do. Anyway, back in the actions here, I cut that part out just because I didn't want to give away any part of the story, but you guys can play it for yourselves and find out what happens. Once again, here's another duel in the streets where it's you against the rifles and the bazookas of the enemy. A bit of it does get a little tiresome. Target practice is not that fun, but they change it up and you get to do different things. Mix around. You have to deal with those airplanes, as I noted before. Here you'll find that the enemy just keeps on coming and they never stop. You can zoom in, with your cannon and see exactly what you're shooting there, or in this case, pull out and be able to see these infantry soldiers much better. So there's a couple different kinds of views that can help you with the combat here. So it's fun. This game, this single-player story goes with the Overture update for Battlefield 5, a free update, and it comes with a new map called Panzer Storm, and it's a big armor battle multiplayer map. So you learn how to play with the tank here, and then you can go online and do much better. And when you go online, Eric Holmes from DICE was telling me that hey, you're not just gonna think this is the tank with a lot of hit points. You're gonna feel like, hey, I played this story, The Last Tiger. To me, the tank is even a character. And that you are continuing that adventure playing on Panzer Storm map, where you can get as many as 17 tanks fighting it out against each other on a single map with 64 players, a lot of infantry, flak guns, airplanes, other kinds of armor, all battling it out for control of the map. This Last Tiger story is related to the multiplayer, connected that way. a lot of these environments here feel like they're part of, like, familiar because of the Rotterdam multiplayer map. But yeah, this is clearly a city in Germany, and you are trying to defend it as the last tiger here. I like how Mueller is so confident in himself that he flips the lid on the tank and sticks his head out, and then covers himself up quite casually when he's under fire. He almost looks like he feels invincible. I'm not sure why, but I felt like, I shouldn't run over everything, so I avoid these lampposts and these trees. You don't necessarily need to cause all the destruction possible, but that's the highlight of this game, is that the destructible terrain, destructible vehicles, destructible everything in the environment. The Tiger tank causes the most destruction of all. You could sort of sit in the corner here and just shoot everything in sight if you want. Never run out of ammo. In fact, in battle, a lot of the Tiger tanks often ran out of ammo before the. Oops! I actually did knock down a trooper. You can't. You can run out of ammo before you run out of enemy tanks. You saw the aircraft coming down here, but at some point you get outside of the tank and you go find a flak gun, which conveniently is located right in the middle of this square here, and use the flak gun to turn the tables on those nasty airplanes and take them out as well. Takes a bit of good shooting to take these planes out. You gotta lead a little bit, plus they're like this, they're coming straight down at you. If they're coming straight down at you, you can take some hits from them as well. It's fun to operate these flak guns, they're kind of mechanical marvels, just like the Tiger tank as well. I'm never particularly skillful at being a pilot in these planes. They're not as hard to fly as you would think, but on the other hand, it is pretty hard to hit targets on the ground when you're a pilot in Battlefield 5. So yeah, I pretty much stay on the ground as much as I can. Here's another darker part of the story, a dark part of the game, where Mueller starts to think about his complicity and the lies he's being told. Here, the commander, the propagandists are saying that the city's been evacuated, and you can clearly see there are still citizens, innocent folks who are occupying the city and have not left, and they are in trouble. So Mueller is looking around at this and feeling the emotion of it, and that's not an easy thing for DICE to pull off. Again, you feel sympathy for Mueller here. I mean, he's a tank commander. He's caused a lot of this problem. Here's a shot of that cathedral. There's some nice little music there to go with it. In this part of the game, I won't spoil any of it, but it does remind me of Dante's Inferno. It's just the tank going into hell, and clearly this is not going to end as a happy ending kind of story, but that's what DICE is able to do with these characters that they create just for this purpose of showing you a different slice of World War II. So hats off to DICE for The Last Tiger.